Bye. Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to Tapa for this episode of Back to School. My name's Kolonel Paul Clayton and I'm the commander of the NATO forces here as part of the Enhanced Forward Presence, which I'll explain in a minute. I've been in the army for about 27 years and I joined because I wanted to not do an office job and I wanted to be able to lead soldiers and to see different parts of the world. And I've been very lucky in my time to have seen over 25 countries during my time in the army. The question I've been asked to answer is, who are the Allied soldiers in Estonia and what are they doing here? What I'll do is I'll explain for about 8 minutes and then I'll be able to answer your questions. So think about it now, about what questions you would like to ask me. So first of all, why are we here and what is NATO? Well, NATO is an organisation, it's a defensive alliance with the idea of protecting against a threat, mainly against Europe. It consists of 30 countries, of which Estonia joined in 2004, with the principle being, if you attack one country, you attack all countries. So, why are we in Estonia? Well, in 2016, NATO had a grouping together in Warsaw, where they decided that in order to have collective defence and to give a larger deterrence, that we would have some forward-based soldiers from many eastern border, and those countries were decided to be Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania and Poland. In Estonia, the UK is the lead nation, and at any one time we have either French, Danish, and in one case we had Belgian soldiers who were here joining us for a 6-month rotation in order to provide protection and support to the Estonian Defence Forces. We also have one civilian from Iceland who joins us to help with our media. What do we consist of? Well, in Estonia now we have approximately 900 British soldiers, and we all form together to be part of what we call a battle group. And that battle group is made up of a number of different bits of equipment that you can see behind me now. The first one I'll talk about is the Challenger 2 tank that you can see here. This is a main battle tank, and we currently have 10 of these in country. They're supported by infantry and an infantry fighting vehicle called the Warrior, and also a number of other bits of equipment. For example, over my right shoulder you will see here the AS-90, which is an artillery piece which fires up to 40 kilometers. But as well as the tanks and the artillery pieces, we also have other support elements, such as engineers who can build and dig anti-tank ditches or put bridges down, but also signals and communication, and we have our logistics element that keep us supported and make sure that we've got enough fuel and water to be able to survive. The French, who are just arriving at the moment, and you may be able to see on the news tonight them arrive and their vehicles come off a ship in Paldiski, have also bringing tanks and infantry, engineers and other support weapons. All together, we come together to form one battle group that will fight if required, and we train as one unit. That battle group is part of the 1st Estonian Brigade based here in Tapa. And so we do all of our integration with them to make sure that if we need to, we will fight together as one cohesive unit. And that is what a lot of our time is spent doing. But as well as what we've got here on a permanent basis, we also have other number of capabilities that come on a regular basis into the country. So you would have heard of exercise Cavid Storm, Spring Storm as we call it, and this year we've got a number of helicopters from the UK that are going to come here. And those are Apache anti-tank helicopters, but also Wildcat reconnaissance helicopters. So what do we do while we're here? Well, predominantly, we spend a lot of our time doing training and making sure that we're improving our professionalism as soldiers. And we do that training mainly on the central training area near Tapa, but also we go elsewhere in the country in Estonia, and we have even been down to do training in Latvia and Lithuania. Training is really important because it allows us to integrate together and to form one really strong unit and understand how the French or the Danish soldiers work on a regular basis, but also really important for us to understand how the Estonian soldiers work together. The bond between UK and Estonia and France has been really strong, and we've been together in a number of countries, including Afghanistan and also Mali. So the training that we do here strengthens that bond and gives a really strong message about our cohesion and support for NATO. But it's not all work when we're here as far as military training. We also do a number of other things, and you may have seen us at a number of big events around Estonia. For example, the motor show in Tartu, or the song festival in 2019 in Tallinn. We go and support those because, one, we want to understand Estonian culture a little bit better, but also because it gives us a chance to be able to show people that we're here and allow them to ask us questions the same way as you will be doing in a minute about what we're doing, and allow us to increase our widespread understanding of NATO and support for NATO within Estonia. But when we finish the work element of it, we also go out, and I encourage our soldiers to explore and to find out about Estonia. And so we've had a lot of soldiers this year enjoying the cold winter in Otepää, doing skiing and other events. But last summer we also had a lot of soldiers that went on a regular basis to Pärnu to enjoy the beaches. So it's not all work here. We really enjoy being here as part of Estonia and being part of the Estonian Defence Force and part of NATO, because we're stronger if we're all together. That's it from me now as far as what I've got to tell you, and it's an opportunity for me to answer some questions that you have about our time here in Estonia and, if need be, about NATO. So, have we got a first question, Bjorn?
Thank you, Colonel. There's a question from Sophia. Is it fun to be in the military?
I've really enjoyed myself in the military, Sophia. I've always said that I would stay in as long as I'm enjoying it, and 27 years later, I'm still here and having a great time. And it's been really good for me because I'm here in Estonia for 2 years.
Tina is asking, what kind of qualities does a soldier need nowadays?
So being a soldier is a really important job, and I don't think it makes any difference if you're from Britain or France or Denmark or Estonia. I think the key qualities are intelligence, the ability to understand a changing and difficult situation, but also being fit and strong and brave. And our men and women in our defence forces, both here and the Estonian Defence Forces, show that on a daily basis.
Lina is asking, did you choose to serve in Estonia, and if so, why?
I did choose to come here. I had been commanding my own battalion back in the United Kingdom. I then worked for the United Nations for a bit in South Sudan, and I was then given the opportunity to come here and command our British forces and NATO forces. And my job is wider than Estonia. We also have some people working in the US-led battle group in Poland, and so I spend a lot of time traveling between the Baltic countries and Poland, and I really enjoy being here in command.
And there's a question, what is the most exciting experience you have had during your service in the military?
I've had lots of exciting experiences. I've been on operations, and as you can imagine, serving in Afghanistan and Iraq has been on occasion a little bit hair-raising and certainly challenging. But I've also had a lot of exciting things doing wider things. I did ski racing, I played rugby, and here in Estonia I've been able to do the Tartu Marathon, for example, which was something that challenged me to the full.
But in general, what are the emotions of the Allied forces living among in the Estonian society?
I think the emotions are one of feeling a sense of pride of being here and feeling a sense of belonging. Certainly everywhere that we go within Estonia, we get a really good reception, and the interactions that our soldiers have had both here working with the Estonian Defence Forces in Tapa and widely has been very positive. So I think it's a sense of belonging and being part of the Estonian culture.
Maria is asking, are the Allied soldiers studying local languages, Estonian, Russian, etc., when they are living here?
So that language is one of the more difficult things. And as you know, and it's Estonian Language Day today, Estonian is a really difficult language to learn. There's a lot of sounds and pronunciations which we find very difficult. And because our soldiers rotate on a 6th monthly basis, it's very difficult for them to be able to learn Estonian as much as they want to. But we try to learn the basics and how to say hello, tere, and how to say thank you, aita.
Sander is asking, how does Brexit affect Estonian and British military relations?
It hasn't had any impact on our military relations at all. We're here because we're part of NATO, and NATO is the importance. That is the thing that brings us all together and gives us strength. Just because the UK has left the EU, we haven't left Europe, and we're really important how we get the message about us being an important part of the defensive posture within Europe.
Christian and others are wondering about COVID. Does COVID limit the amount of training that you do, and does it affect the NATO cooperation?
So COVID has obviously had an impact on everyone over the last year. But what we've done in conjunction with General Herem, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Estonian forces, is we've had a view that we need to keep training. It's really important for us to show our readiness and our professionalism. So since COVID struck this time last year, this is now coming into our 3rd rotation of soldiers that are arriving in this country, and we do it safely, following all the precautions. But we also make sure while we're here, we do as much training as possible and we don't let it constrain us.
Laura is wondering, what is the most interesting thing about Estonians for you?
That's a really interesting question, Laura. I think what I've enjoyed an awful lot about Estonians is a very honest and direct way that you talk and you approach us. There is no sense of trying to delay the question. If you want to know something, you ask it straight up, and that makes it easier for us to be able to give a very straight and honest answer back. And I think that is a really good character trait that I've picked up from the Estonians.
There are several students wondering about NATO in general. Why is NATO important for the Allied nations and for Estonia?
NATO is really important because it allows us collectively to have a defensive posture against any threat that we may come against as a united group of 30 countries. And as we've seen with the situation in Crimea in 2014, there is hostility occasionally, and we need to be together, stronger in order to defend. And as we said, an attack against one is an attack against all, and that's why we stand with so many nations taking part in the enhanced forward presence. There are currently 19 nations, as well as Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia and Poland. There are 19 other nations with their soldiers in those countries. That's really strong.
How do you rate the abilities of the Estonian Defence Forces?
I've been really impressed with the Estonian Defence Forces, and as I've said, we work very closely with them, both here in Estonia, but also on operations in Afghanistan and also in Mali. They're very professional, they're very tough, and very keen soldiers, and it allows us to be able to work at the same level. We're learning as much from the Estonian Defence Forces, especially during the winter when it's been really, really cold here that we're not used to. We've been learning how to operate and adapt the way we fight, and that is coming from the level of stuff that the Estonian soldiers are telling us. And the capabilities you have with your armoured vehicles and your new artillery pieces, the K9, is really impressive. And we come together and we're certainly able to show a really strong front.
Christella is wondering, what is the hardest work that soldiers do?
Christella, well, I think it's probably an answer to a question that you're not expecting. For our soldiers here in Estonia, one of the most difficult things to do is keep these vehicles that you can see here, keep them running. They need an awful lot of looking after and maintenance. So that's one bit. I think that the other bit is, I think, the physical training and activity that takes part. It's testing, and we need it to be testing because we need our soldiers to be fit and ready.
Sandra Matthias is wondering, what are the benefits of becoming a soldier?
Well, I think the benefits are huge. For me personally, I think it's shown me a huge amount about confidence, about the ability to be able to project myself, and I think that gives a lot of confidence to a lot of soldiers. But also, it's the ability to see things that we wouldn't get to see otherwise. Thank you very much. It's been really, really enjoyable for me to be able to share and talk to you today from Tapa, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you've got any other questions, then please send them in and we'll do our best to answer. I've got one thing for you though, before we disappear, which I think is an assignment. What I want you to do is, after you've had a chance to talk in class, is I want you to imagine that you are a British, French or Danish soldier and you're writing a letter home to your family and your loved ones. And I want you to answer why you think it's important that we're here in Estonia, but also what is the thing you enjoy most about Estonia. I hope you like that challenge that I've given you, and I hope you all have a safe and happy day.